Good morning again. Good morning again. Thank you for coming. Kindly be seated. I request everyone to take their place and have seat. Yeah, it's a immense pleasure for me to invite you all to this one of the novel session in the IMC, and we are going to talk and we are going to present an exciting future of the telecom labs. It would be very much interesting. It will be like a thought-provoking event. So thank you again, everybody, for coming. I request Tripti Saxena, Madam, Senior DDG, TEC, to formally inaugurate the session with a few blessings, and then we will start the session. Thank you.
Good morning, dear panel members, all the audience. Labs, actually, as you know, they are the foundational stone for any technological development, be it telecom, be it anything else. Labs are the places where innovations are turned into reality and into commercial ventures, and then scale to profitable businesses. For any innovation, first you have to have the lab. You have to have the standards. You have to check the standards in the labs. In telecom also, we have come a very long way, and particular types of labs are very important in telecom. These days, 5G labs are coming up. Labs for testing of security, labs for security of, testing safety of the devices, labs for testing effects on the devices of another device or on the effects of device on the network, labs for testing EMF, labs. Besides this, labs for testing, now these days, artificial intelligence is a part of any industry. So labs for testing security, data security, labs for testing privacy, all these things, you understand that labs are very, very important for any engineering venture. I'll now invite all the panel members to start the discussion and inform all of you about the details of the labs with significant insights. Thank you. All the good wishes.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I would like to invite the panelist, Mr. Lenin Raja. I request him to come onto the dais. Lenin Raja is a very well-known figure in the telecom and EMIMC. He's a doctorate in EMIMC. He had been into the industry, and I think there is no need of further introduction to him because he himself is very, very well-known figure in the. I request Mr. Sudhir Jutsi to come onto dais. He's a director policy strategy UL Labs. He's also TIC Council member, one of the very well-known person in the field of conformity assessment. He has a global exposure. He works with FMCG and direct sales. He's a member in FICCI, and he's a very, very India's Apex Industry Association. And he had been into this field of conformity assessment for very long. He's known, a very well-known figure across the globe. I request Dr. Muthu. Muthu Kumar is a founder of WAN Mega Networks Incubator at IIT Madras Research Park. He has 23 years of experience. He worked in HCL, Wipro, and ODC, Juniper, and several such top corporations. And he himself has founded and started a 5G core lab, 5G RAN, and Open RAN, network for function virtualization, etc. in IIT Madras. He is a member of ORAN Alliance, ONF, and TSDSI. And before just getting into the sessions, we have another important person with us, like Mrs. S. Indu. She's the Vice Chancellor of DTU. I think I request her to give a good wishes and greetings just before we getting into the session.
Very good morning to all of you. And actually, I'm overwhelmed with the strategy and the way this exhibition has been maintained and connecting all over the India and all over the world. So this thought process itself is really, really good, and connecting around 100 institutes in India. This is going to make a revolution in the coming uh, industrial growth of India. And I am really thankful to our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji for taking this initiative. And for last, this is actually, maybe this will be this will make India become maybe world #1 very soon in the technological growth. And I am thankful to him for giving Delhi Technological University as also making a part of the 100 use case UG labs. And definitely we will work out, and we will we will not disappoint him. We will come out very well in this. And thank you very much. And uh, congratulations for the success of this IMC for the organizers.
Thank you, Mrs. Sindhu. Thanks for your presence. Let us get into our session. We have eminent speakers waiting to talk with us, and they will open our eyes how the future would be. It is fascinating to look into the future, and in the dream of new India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. It is really a great pleasure to follow the great leadership call of Atmanirbhar Bharat. So, and this precious, exciting times, we are really interested to talk about the future of telecom labs. I request Mr. Muthukumar, Network Head, IIT Madras, Pravartak, Chennai, to give his presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. Okay, thanks for this opportunity. And today we are going to look in the high level what is test as a service. Okay, so before that, okay, so before that, I would like to talk about a little bit about IIT Pravartak. IIT Pravartak is a company hosted by IIT Madras under DST, Department of Science and Technologies, Technology Innovation Hub. IIT Pravartak is focusing on sensors, networks, actuators, and control systems. So I am heading the network part, and we are part of the IITM Research Park ecosystems. Okay, so we get into that task. Why we need a task? Okay, test is always there. Test is in mechanical industry. Test is in everywhere. But why it is become a service? And now, well, if you look into that, the semiconductor industry started, and it is given away to microprocessor. Then it has become a software. And then India get into the software in 1980s, and in 2023 if you look around, everything is software. You touch anything, you have a hardware plus software. So the softwareization of technology. If you take 5G, the core is fully softwareized, and even in the RAN side, people are talking about software-defined radios. So the software is slowly getting into every way. So the softwareization needs a lot of testing. Then another thing is the software is becoming distributed across the places. That earlier there is a concept called monolithic. Now people are going to microservices and distributed. So the software is talking across places through the APIs. So that will enable more complexity in the systems. So we need to test multiple parts of the network or of the software. The third one is sort and release cycles. In 2000, 2003, the hardware product development, if you want to develop a product, router or switch, it takes 18 months to 36 months. Today, we are able to do it in 3 months. If you take a SOC verifications, it takes 18 to 24 months. Now it will become 12 months. If we talk about software, we don't know how frequently they are updating. 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So that means we need to make testing as quickly as possible, as relevant as possible. Okay, the CI/CD pipeline automations made a bigger role in this automate the release life cycles. And the last one is end-to-end testing, because we are changing very frequently each and every part of the software or hardware. But in the functionality wise or compliance wise, security wise, we need to do the end-to-end testing. So this and all lead to that more pressure on the test. So with that is the solution we're coming with the test as a service. So what it is test as a service? Test as a service is a cloud-based software testing model in which a third-party service provider performing testing. Why can't we do in-house? If I want to do in-house, I need to bring all investments, equipments, expertise, everything. If you want to be accelerate your product development life cycle or standard verification, we should go to the third party, and also we are going to the experts who have that niche area. If you want to test any 5G RAN, right, we need to test EMI, EMC, protocols, security. We cannot able to get everything in a single place. So the distributed model is going to help us. So how it is being done? Okay. So in today's lab, if you take all the processes is done in the lab itself. But when we go for a test as a service, the starting point and landing point alone will be taken care by the lab. Remaining things will be given to the vendor itself, the person who is going to bring that software or hardware for testing. So it makes everybody's life easier. If you look into the process, right? Normally, whenever we start testing that network, we need to set the topology and we need to configure all the systems in the topology. This is we call as a test environment setup. Normally, once the lab is already have this, so we can leverage this. So in this standard compliance testing, every time we are going to get a new device under test. Vendor 1, vendor 2, everybody have their own configuration. So we can provide the config templates so that they upload their configuration in a YAML or JSON file and upload it in the configuration management system. We can work out the background scripts that will plug into our environment. So the interoperability, that compliance, that all these things will be taken care. So it will reduce the time of manual configuration. The third thing is test suite selection. So this onwards, we are given the control to the vendor. So he says that I want to get a compliance of TECER 5G core. I want to get the compliance of OpenNFV. He go and select the test suite by himself and he execute that. Since it's a kind of a background automated environment, it will run automatically. And good thing is the technical people want to know what is happening inside. If I say pass or fail, they always ask why it is fail, give me a log. So we upload the log automatically in the system so that they can analyze the logs so that they know what is happening inside. Then if they do some changes in the product, they will rerun the test cases. Only the failed test cases they will rerun and they make sure that it is true. Once all the test cases are passed, they will generate the report. The reports are getting automated. The templates will be there so that they can get the report. Once the reporting is done, then they can go for the certification. We can even generate the certification online, or we can submit to the TEC or any authority. They will verify and sign it. So this will add a lot of good things about it. It's a transparent testing. So when we say this is the log, there is no question of whether it is pass or fail. And other things is, even though it is remote, we are all connecting to the VPN, IPVPN or MPLS VPN list lines, so the links will be secured. And the third point is optimal resource utilization. It is for both lab and also vendor. They don't want to bring people to the lab to test it. They can access remotely. They can even bring experts from across the world to verify the logs. And better return on investment. One of the biggest challenge for labs is the return on investment and capex. So when we open up the lab for remote access with all the security in place, it is benefit for the lab. Then once we put the system in automation mode, automatically the reports will get generated and we can get the consolidated report and we can do the trend analysis and we can do the correlation. So that are all the benefits which can get out of this process. So in the summary, the benefits are anytime, anywhere testing. Once it is in internet, people ask from anywhere. We don't want to bound saying that this is at India Space Lab. Even the Indian friendly countries can be used in this lab. Then plug and play. You bring your device or you can ship your device to that lab, plug it, put the configuration template. The configuration will be up and running. You can start your testing. And report and analysis, as we said, we can generate because of the dashboard culture and the data analytics, we can able to generate a lot of reports out of it, which when we do manually, that is not possible. Once we collect the log, we can apply the AIML and we can understand a lot of insights about that product or the features or the security aspects. And cost effective. So that is one of the biggest things the labs are coming together. And another thing is sharing resources and expertise. If you look into the European Union, in the last 10 years, there are 250 plus labs are built for 5G, and they invested billions and billions of dollars, and they are sharing the knowledge across the industry, academia, standard. So that's why they are able to be a little bit ahead of the technology always. So now we are taking the first step, but once we follow the best practice and other things across the world, we are able to catch up quickly. So what the world is doing, ITU formed this focus group for testbeds federations in 2021, and currently it is going in active mode. So there are three work groups are there: use cases, applications, industry demand, and business models. So this is the group. It's starting coming with that, the same pattern, whatever we are going to do, why we want to do all these things. And the testbed is the service. That is the second group. I recommend that TEC and the authorized bodies can be part of that group and contribute. And the third group, the API and reference model initiations, so that we technical people go and contribute. If you guys enable, we are able to contribute on behalf of India. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Muthu Kumar. And we have a proof of concept demo in IIT stall. I request everybody to go and see how we can test sitting in Delhi, DTU somewhere, and the lab somewhere. We can test and take the report and print your certificate instantaneously. In these days of instant delivery, if we designate lab for 2 years and if we issue a test certificate for within 2 years, by the time technology get outdated, we will have to evolve. Otherwise, we will be thrown out from the society. So we are here to meet the social needs. And I'm so glad that I'm really excited and I'm so happy that we have a very important dignitary with us, Ms. Sangeeta. She's Director General of Nepal Telecom. She had consented to attend. I welcome her and I request everybody to welcome. She came along with her team to look at our session. Thank you so much. Thanks for Sangeeta ji. Thank. And now I request Mr. The second session is by second panel is by Jutsi. We'll quickly complete our panel talks, and then I want to spend more time on interaction. You can question everything. If we don't question, we don't evolve. So kindly, I'm giving more time towards the questioning. So I request Mr. Jutsi kindly.
Honorable dignities on the dais and off the dais. It's an honor and privilege for UL Solutions to be present and to be the part of this esteemed panel and share some perspective with respect to conformity assessment. First of all, I saw the theme Sewa, Vishwas ke Saath. I think there's a lot of onus and accountability on the labs. So thank you very much, Prashantji, for bringing that perspective, Sewa, Vishwas ke Saath. So after hearing my colleague speak about the software as a service testing, I wanted to sort of give a perspective in terms of what are the global best practices in conformity assessment. Why we are sharing this topic in the sense that I think India is not only looking at making India as a manufacturing hub, but we're also looking at how do we become an outsourcing hub in terms of telecom products. And that's precisely the reason we have to be, I mean, you're talking about futuristic labs, we are talking leveraging AI, ML, but we're also talking about how do we embrace global best practices. We are not here sharing that A country practice or B country practice. It has to be an India customized best practice in conformity assessment. With that, sorry, did I? Okay, good. So I think we have to understand how the regulatory paradigm is becoming much more futuristic, and that's where I think India has to take a leapfrog in that direction. If I take a specific example in this slide, you know why I'm saying we need to embrace complexity. Let's talk about a smart lens. a futuristic smart lens. It will have an antenna. It will have an energy storage device. It will also have maybe a solar small panel module. And then we have safety related stuff, IMC. Now, that's where we are talking about a complexity of devices. And that's why we're talking about, it's not about a telecom device today. It can be, it has got safety issues, it's got IMC issues, it has also got RF issues. But tomorrow, when you're talking about a medical device, a smart lens is a medical device, but that doesn't mean it can be a telecom device, it can be an energy device. So that's the complexity we're looking at, and that's the reason that it's very, very important for the standards making. It's not about the telecom standards making, but it's also the standards which are being made in other sectors, whether it is energy storage, whether it is medical devices. There's a need to sort of embrace that complexity, and we have to come together in the sense when these complex devices are in the market. I think I always touch upon this slide because this is a fundamental slide on anything conformity assessment. Now, if we are wanting to develop a robust conformity assessment, this I call as TIC house. This is Testing Inspection Certification House. We call it a TIC house. It has got a base, which is basically the standards, and standards is the key. And we are talking about globally harmonized standards. And if you see, this has got three pillars. One is the accreditation pillar, another is the conformity assessment pillar, and third is the surveillance. And the roof of this TIC house is because at the end of the day, what we are wanting to achieve is consumer safety. We want trade facilitation and industry growth. And I think Prashant sir and his team, and of course, ma'am, at the DGTEC are working in that direction of developing a conformity assessment framework, which is robust, which meets India's needs, and which is much more futuristic, and we are able to cater to the global markets. Yes, we know Honorable Prime Minister's vision. We know why we are heading in the direction. I saw also today's in Economic Times, it mentioned direction wants to get into 6G. I'm also happy to see that VinFast, Vietnam-based company, is wanting to invest, explore markets in India. We work very closely with them in Vietnam. At the end of the day, what we want to achieve with this conformity assessment framework, we want, first of all, we have to prioritize national interest. We want to promote consumer safety. We want to facilitate industry competitiveness. We want to facilitate trade. We want to encourage innovation. And we want to move with markets and technologies. I just wanted to sort of, share with the August audience out here is that we need to see how public-private partnership plays a very, very critical role. I think if we want to bring speed to manufacturing, if we want to have greater market access, if we want to have new products, new technologies, we don't want to stifle innovation because sometimes I understand with standards we stifle innovation. We want to have new products in the market. There's a need for more public-private partnership. And the need for, and we see the countries like what's happening in USA, Brazil, and other parts, how public-private partnership in standards, in conformity assessment, or in market surveillance helps to sort of bridge that gap. And it doesn't mean that we need to follow one market. That's what I said. I made it very clear that India has to have its own model. But what's in the interest of manufacturers? What's the interest of country? That's the model we have to evolve and adopt. I also thought, since I'm talking about public-private partnership, I thought I will quickly give an example. How are telecom products certified in multiple markets? And you can see FCC process. And we can have questions offline, but I think I just wanted to give the background in terms of how public-private partnership plays a very, very critical role in these markets as well. We can see EUC model. We can talk about the China model as well. We can see the Philippines also, how they leverage, they leverage FCC reports also after. And some of the markets, that's what I said. Some of the markets may say, well, we want to have in-country testing or in-country certification. Some of the markets will say, no, we don't want to have in-country testing. We would accept international reports, trusted sources reports. And some of them say, well, we can have test reports from outside. We can have we can do certification here. Some of the markets will say, well, we have all the three models. And that's what somewhere Brazil, and if you see, they do adopt those different kinds of models in terms of conformity assessment. Because Prashant sir mentioned about that we don't want to, if we see some of the products and being tested, whether it is with different regulators, it takes the tag to the market. The manufacturer at the end of the day has to launch the market in the product. A mobile phone today launched in the market. Imagine if it takes 6 months for a battery testing. I'm being very hypothetical, but I know a battery takes a tag for a battery is around 3 to 4 weeks, Rohit. It's 4 weeks precisely. And I'm not saying that we do it in 2 weeks. That's highly unethical. because the standard subscribes that you have to do these tests, which are important for a battery to test it. It takes 4 weeks. It will take 4 weeks, and we will not make any compromise on doing that as a commitment to, or being a responsible labs, because we want India to be one of the world-class testing infrastructures. And because if you see countries like Japan, Taiwan, Korea, for that matter, other countries, how they have accelerated in product innovation, product development, or product launching, because they have state-of-art testing infrastructure in the country. And I think we have to make commitment to develop that state-of-art testing and conformity assessment in this country. And that's why we will not compromise on certain testing parameters. And I'm being very passionate about it because this is very close to my heart. If you see Brazil, and that's what I said, the models are evolving. We'll have to see as country which models are important to us. We have to have consultation with the manufacturers. We have to have consultation with the stakeholders, regulators, to understand what's the best model for India to speed up, to ramp up. If you see in the India Mobile Congress, a lot of new products have been. I'm so excited to see, to see the JioStar, to see the Airtel Star, to see how new IoT Airtel. I was at the Airtel show, not promoting a particular company, but I'm just saying I'm so fascinated and excited to see what's happening. India is growing. India's story is here. So therefore, we as testing labs also have a great responsibility to ensure that we are cater to the future needs of these manufacturers. I think this is very, very important to also understand that oftentimes there are questions raised in terms of, well, this is a particular device. It has got a safety testing. It has got IMC testing, but then it has got energy efficient testing as well. But then it falls under different regulators. And that is the conundrum. And sometimes that's the big bone of contention for all of us to solve. Well, how do we solve that? But then if you take example of Japan, or if I take an example of Taiwan, they do also have the same situation. I think it's very, very important for all of us to come together to consensus and work closely with different ministries, whether it's Ministry of Electronics or whether it's Department of Telecommunication, Ministry of Power for Renewable Energy Efficiency, in the interest of consumers, in the interest of manufacturers, in the interest of regulators, that we are able to solve these problems, because we do have ministries overlaps in multiple geographies as well. With that, I just wanted to outstanding work, I must say, because we have been working very closely with TEC for a long, long time, and I am sure my colleague Lenin and other lab fraternity people, I'm given to understand there are some lab fraternity members also sitting in the audience as well. They will understand that it was a humongous task. It was a humongous task, and I really want to appreciate TEC for their incredible work which they have done for so many years. And I think we are marching ahead in that direction of having more and more labs. I know there are challenges. I know there are gaps in certain testing parameters. I know we will go there, but I think if you see the number of safety labs, EMIMC labs, SAR labs, interface labs, it is an incredible work in terms of developing those test protocols, test parameters, and on top of that, we pushing them, manufacturers pushing them, everybody pushing them. But I think we must appreciate the work which TEC has done so far. With those words, thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hand over to Prashantji. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jutsi. It has always been an encouraging, and the presentation that are going to come are very, very interesting. Yeah. So I request Mr. Lenin to further take up next session. Mr. Lenin also will share us how your labs can be empaneled with the international agencies like accreditation.
Thank you so much, Vishwas, to give this opportunity. Good afternoon to everyone. So my colleague Sudhir, it's clearly mentioned about what are the various regulations we were talking about, what are the various regulations, the various globals, and what is that? He mentioned about what are the certifications we have to obtain for the different countries in his glance. I think particularly I can mention from the slide number 7 onwards, he is mentioning that. But being a testing laboratory, it's a challenge. So I'll be invest the money. I invest the money, and then I'm expecting some business from India. But in what is that? When we consider about the global market as well as maximum manufacturers from the global side, then how can I get my ROI? That is the biggest challenge. That is the biggest challenge. But we can get our ROI by this way. I'll start from my presentations. It is how to make Indian labs to obtain the global accreditations, because if you are consider the CE marking, I always say that the CE marking also have that no abbreviations of CE marking. If you are interact with any European norms manufacturer as well as in European peoples, they have the confusion what is the abbreviation of CE, either certification of Europe or otherwise in means a certification to conformity. They don't have the abbreviations because that is a self-declarations. But in the self-declaration, in the sense, some of the products, especially the medical devices, you have to obtain the reports and testings from some reputed laboratory, which is who can accredited by the global MRA ILAC. But the telecom forum, why I'm talking about medical devices, now you can't segregate telecom to any other devices. If we are talking about the automotive, yes, V2X is there, telecom is there. If you talk about medical devices, nowadays the ECG devices contained within Bluetooth and then Wi-Fi. So telecom, it's inbuilt and automatically considered in the part of any devices. Even though defense, we have the defense radar, always that communication is there. So now you can't separate the communication from any other different sector like automotive or medical or defense sectors or there is in consumer products. So if you are taking the example in this room, how many different products, means I can say that in this LED light, this is per 15 standard is applicable. I'm talking means in this microphones, earlier it says per 22. Now it's a new standard is says per 32. I have my display devices says per 32. I have speaker audio video system. Earlier it says per 22. Now it says per 32. So various standards, various regulations, and different countries. So being a laboratory, how can I get my ROI from this? Only the way to obtain the international accreditations. Don't confuse my talk with Sudhir, because he talked about multiple regulations. Every country, they has their own regulations, such as Anatel for Brazil. They have their own regulations. Small country Vietnam, they have their own regulations. KCC for Korea, they have their own regulations. FCC USA, ISCD Canada, RCM regulations for Australia and New Zealand. So every country, they have their own regulations. From India, how can I support to my global customers from my same equipment, my same investment, my same engineer, my same product? I have to do how I have to going to serve for my customers for the multiple country acceptance of compliance. That is what my talk. So multiple accreditations from the designated accreditation bodies. Again, I mentioned designated accreditation bodies. You have to be careful on it because in FCC, they were clearly declared that only in these 3 accreditation bodies only they are going to accept it. They are not at all going to be accepted any other body because of MRI issues or the reason because of their in-country regulations. So in this A2LA, NAVLAB, and then ANAB, these are the 3 accreditation body. If you can obtain your certifications, if you are obtain your accreditation from this body, it will be easily accepted for your FCC regulations. You no need to be go for the new equipments. There is no regulation to go for means a new money investment and all. The same existing thing, you can able to easily obtain that certifications. Another one is additional global something speller is there. Another additional global standards within similar global standards. For an example, if you are talk about in India, we are in TEC, we are very clearly mentioned about FCC standards and then HC standards, and as well as in our own standards. Means there are some similarities. If you are go here, I can tabulate it. For an example, if customers come to me for the testing for Indian TEC regulations, the same report, it will be accepted by another 120 countries. There is no requirement to do the testing or redo the testing again for in this testing, because what are things we are going to do for our Indian mandatory regulations, same thing is applicable for the CE marking also, only except in this 3 testing. So in this TEC certification, the people talk about in industry, TEC is more, what is that, mention lot of standards and lot of certifications. But if you see in this 3 important testing, it's not at all part of the TEC because of we are only talk about the telecom products. We are not at all talk about any other means power level products or other any other means like luminary products. So in these cases, harmonics, flickers, and means power frequency, magnetic field, and means these are the three standards is not at all applicable, not at all required for the TEC requirements. So if you are completely obtaining these standards, you can able to serve CE as well as you can able to serve for the TEC requirements. If we talk about in the radio side, we simply adopted HC standards. So in this HC standards, it's equivalently you can serve for your RED 53 regulations. So there is no additional investment. There is no additional investment. It is an equivalent standard, same HC standards, same RED 53. In RED regulations, they were mentioned in this standard as a part of self-conformity, but here is a mandatory. This is the difference. But some of the products, if you are talking about especially point-to-point, it is a standard is mentioned as a point-to-point, means 302217 standards. If you are obtained the certification here, you can able to serve for your all the European countries as well as in Africans. The same report, it will be accepted to RCM certification we called as in Australia and New Zealand. You don't need to go for any other additional regulations once you need to be obtained the different accreditation. So benefits, we can mention single roof compliance in single roof compliance. In this single roof compliance in single roof, in the sense, your compliance for the TEC regulations as well as you have to be able to support your customer for the global regulations. So you don't need to be go for the additional investment, same equipments, same engineer, same testing time, as well as means the same EUT. You just serve within different standards. In TEC, we talk about IMC standards. We have our own standard, that is TEC SD DD 221 October 16 standard. It's our EMC standard. The same standard derived into CISPR 32 and then 61000 series, which is nothing but your HCEN 301 489 or otherwise in 301 386 standards, which is you can predominantly support it for your telecom product as well as in broadcasting products. And international exposures, because means I know my colleague friends is here, they all came from the MNC laboratories, but we are being Indian labs. Being Indian labs, we can give the competition to the international exposures to obtain the multiple accreditations. Full capacity utilization, in the sense of some of the people they may complain that means we are investing at bit, we are not at all utilized. Once you are means obtained that multiple accreditations, you are not only going to serve for Indian requirements, you can able to serve for the international requirements also. So this is the total mandatory global mandatory certifications. It's mainly required for the ICT products. Means we can mention about in CE for RED 53 and RED 43 and RED means EU 30. This is for all the CE and then UKCA requirements. Same thing for FCC part 15. B for unintentional and then C and then E for the intentional frequencies. If you have the test hub or there is a test facility to set up for TEC, then you can able to serve for global requirements for CE, UKCA as well as an FCC and then ISCD. So global product testing in India is easy to other nations. Why? Because we already have that developed and then matured standards and then adapted standard by global, and cost-effective solutions compared to the Western nations, because of manpower cost is very less in India when compared to Western regions as well as in European region, as well as in US and Canada. So potential manpower, we have lot of manpower in India and compared to US, because earlier days we are also went to in abroad to serve for as an engineer, test engineer, compliance engineer. Nowadays we have the opportunity in India, then why should we have to go and then drive to abroad? So we can serve from India. So manpower cost is less, as well as we can able to support for our global customer from India itself. And effective time management is possible because which is matured standards. You already tested for the matured standards, then unmatured standard is very easy. Otherwise, new standards are very easy. So one standards I have to mention, that is our radio regulations, the testing process, marketing access, and testing product and marketing access, which is already mentioned by Sudhir. And just welcome to all the Indian manufacturers as well as all the Indian laboratories. You wanted to please become to make India as a testing hub, to make us India as a testing hub, because we have all the matured standards in any product. 175 products, we mention about 322 standards, mandatory 322 standards in from the TEC side. So thank you so much to TEC to making this unmatured standard into the matured level, and thank you so much to TEC to making this MTCD program in the viable level. You are doing very good jobs, and we have to go in another slight direction path, right paths, and we can make a success India become a what is a testing above global. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lenin. You had always been a very great encouragement to TEC. And now we are going into a very, very interesting presentation. I would like to talk on yeah, we have a guest from Nigeria, Usman Mehman. I would like to welcome him with the claps. Like he is also with us. He joined us. Thanks. We have very good gathering and with a lot of international presence as well. I'm really proud of this event. And now ICT test infrastructure future and opportunities. This is what actually I would like to talk. And this is me. So I would like to draw your attention, especially lab fraternity and OEMs, because we have Mr. Goyal. He represents both from industry as well as lab association. So he is the best guy to put in questions. So my presentation has 3 questions, 4 video clips to keep you awake, to make it very interesting, and then 1 conclusion. So let me take you walk into this. So the first question is the elephant in the room questions. I have identified 3 questions. What are the stumbling blocks to develop ICT infrastructure in this country? Number 1 is this I have formulated, and if you also have something, you're welcome to come and tell me if they have any further problems. One is investment and business viability. It is a agrophobic wide of labs economic model. It's like a chicken and egg story. Everybody talks like you start first mandatory, then I will start lab, and it's like there is no lab because that's why I can't do the mandatory testing. So this is one question. The other elephant in the room question is diverse technology availability. Yeah, see, like it's a very, very vast. Telecom is no more remained as a telecom. It has become an universal technology. It is an ubiquitous technology for human existence. And telecom has metamorphosed to a software. It has actually, so I will touch upon that eventually. So best thing is comfort clinging, and because there is no permanent marriages happens in technologies. And policy uncertainties. It's like a stick or twist. Nowadays, I think we all should know. I think every one of us undergoing fit. Fit is something like a Facebook-induced trauma, something like that. Everybody talks about a problem like there is a policy uncertainty because you don't enroll MTCT, there is no fund support, there is no market availability in the India. So several such questions are basically a perception level questions. I call them as a fit questions, that is Facebook induced trauma. This is one of the psychological factors that's going around nowadays. And next thing is, so as a public policy professional, a career bureaucrat, it is my job to bring at a policy perspective to this. There is a very famous concept called Pareto efficient policy. This policy is something like this: an economic state where resources cannot be reallocated to make one individual better off without making at least one individual worse off. So always the question is like, you are supporting labs, OEMs will come and say like you are supporting OEMs. So that's why we are not able to enroll. So what, as a public policy professional, what is my responsibility is, my responsibility is to predict the market potential, growth, tech trends, finance flow, change in demography, citizens' behavior, we have already entered into a ESG civilization globally. That is environment, social governance. I will talk about it further. And my job is to educate and offer the most exciting opportunities in the industry and make viability becomes tangibility. And we as a government, we want to build your businesses, brands along with my nation brand building. So this is actually a giant effort. I request everybody to join me. So another thing that as a policy professional I can look at is like policy funding interventions. So this is, and my second question, this is leading me to other question is, can we make ICT labs an existing business? If yes, how? What should I do? So I would like to talk and show you some few small clips. It is 1 or 2 minutes clips. I think I'll show you one. This is social governance sound.
As you can see, we've innovated and retooled almost every part of our process to reduce our impact on the planet, but there's still a lot more work to do.
And there's something else we wanted to share with you.
You're not trying to bribe Mother Nature with Apple swag.
It's Apple's very first carbon neutral product.
I want to see you do more of this.
You will.
When?
By 2030, all Apple devices will have a net zero climate impact.
All of them?
All of them.
They better.
They will.
Okay, good. See you next year.
Don't disappoint your mother.
You must have watched it. It's a very famous advertisement that is running around in the Apple phones. Apple is contemplating too much and they are investing a lot of money on ESGs. That is environmental social governance. Now, my question is like, how can I make, what kind of opportunities I can open before you for the labs to become more economically viable businesses in India? So environmental social governance based development model, we are entering into the new civilization. Do you know there are 1,255 ESG regulations? Each regulations have several tests. So there is another concept, like the way we have citizens have a passport, there is a concept called product passports, products and service passport. Tomorrow, see the new civilization of ESG regulations globally, how they are governing is, tomorrow if you want to export a product, your product or manufacturer, you need to have a passport for that. Otherwise, no nation will export it. What is passport? It talks about the history of right from the material science. So if there is in the eventuality of the dispute, who will have to certify that? It's the labs. Labs are not just only to talk about it's not just only a hardware test, including software. If there is a dispute between two companies about their own software products, who will have to resolve this? It is not judiciary. The jurisprudence has also moved into technocracy. So if to make you understand, if somebody who is not familiar with SCPs and FRAND, I think next thing is I have talked about the ESGs. The next one is metamorphism, because telecom has alchemized into a software, open RAN, open technologies. This actually it has just become a software. It's no more just a telecom, gadgets. So the third one, very interesting thing, I just want to just open your mind is legal landscape. Legal landscape is, I think most of you know about standard essential patents and fair, reasonable and non-discriminatory agreements. So this creates a disputes between SSO, like TEC is a standard setting organization, SSO and the licensee holder. It's going to create a disputes between the licensees and licensors and global collaborative innovations. And today there are 330,000 friends in USA. Out of that, more than 30 have already ended up in disputes. Even in Germany, it is witnessed the technical, of RAND disputes, FRAND disputes are exponentially increasing. So what is the answer? Lab is the answer. Who can solve this problem? Suppose you go to court, you say like he is using my software. Who has to tell that? It's a lab. So labs business, it has becoming a business case. So I would like to just take you to the another video that will talk you about little about the how FRAND works.
It's good to share experiences, knowledge, car rides. So why not inventions? Open technology standards allow us to share inventions that foster collaborative innovation, expand consumer choice, and enable market entry and growth. By making licenses to patented inventions available on fair, reasonable, and non-discriminatory or FRAND terms, technology can be shared in a way that balances the needs of those who contribute to open standards and those who implement them. Agreeing licenses on FRAND terms ensures that implementers can incorporate core technologies into their new products, while allowing contributors to be appropriately compensated for the technology they have created and shared, generating royalties that can be invested back into developing next-generation technology standards. Nokia invests almost 20% of our revenues in R&D, a $4 billion annual investment that allows us to continuously develop new inventions and improve open standards, while enabling implementers to create new products without needing to invest in R&D of core technologies. This fosters innovation, market entry, consumer choice, and growth. From 2G to 5G, multimedia to IoT, open standards have led to transformative technologies, better performance, and lower costs. And with 6G on the horizon, licensing standardized technologies on FRAND terms presents limitless opportunities for innovation in connected products and services, and in turn, our daily lives. But only if we share them. So, let's share.
So basically what is happening? Suppose if there is a RAN, you are buying from Siemens or Ericsson, and a RAN is one product, it tests only once. But today, Open RAN, it consists of many components. Every component need to go to testing, and component, there is an interconnected interface disputes. Who will solve this? It is not jurisprudence, it is technocracy. It is technoprudence that is going to take the lead in these societies. So as we progress to the new civilization, it is the labs which are going to play very key vital role in the society. And then market access time, every 1 year, Apple brings a new product. So who can test it? So the rate of growth of devices, rate of growth of technologies are exponentially increasing. We need labs. Startup cannot go to Hong Kong and test its product. So startups need labs here. And MSMEs. A concept is coming now, a test during design. I can't wait until somebody tests after making my product and launch into the market. So even before I market into I just launch my product, I should have all certifications in hand during my design itself. So these are the expectations from the OEMs. These are the expectations from the youngsters, startups. So we should be ready in this nation to meet that expectations. And then, so this is what actually is making your labs more and more viable. So according to the research, I told you 1,255 ESG regulations. Each regulation has to be tested and it has to be qualified. So this is giving lot of scope for the test labs and startups, especially India. I'm just slowly moving towards the concept called why in India. So in startups, like there are 25 to 27,000 startups is rising in India. Out of 170 is becoming unicorns, and we are the third largest country in the world for startups unicorns. And apart from that, there are other places like financial sector, cyber regulations. Very interesting thing is there is a SEC regulation, Stock Exchange Commission regulation 2014. It says that every financial institution which has a network should have a strong resiliency, low latency, and availability. So there are today even a stock market exchange bells, it has to be first tested by the telecom labs, and that test certificate is a proof that no broker can claim any kind of damages on the stock exchanges. So this is the level of level that the test importance is growing. Now I will demystify the MTCT impact, whether there is a MTCT, whether or not. The requirement of labs is going to happen. It will be growing exponentially. Similar to the financial sector, there is a health sector, mines, agriculture, everywhere. Everywhere it is governed by the networks, intelligent networks. We need labs. We can't live without labs. Next thing is, so my question is like only wireless technologies, wireless testing market. By 2027, there will be 23.7 US dollars billion market potential is there. So labs are still viable. Whether there is MTCT, no MTCT, labs are there. Labs can exist. Labs is a very successful surviving business. So are we alone in this tech cosmos, in this entire area, or anybody else is doing? My colleague has talked about TOS. TOS is one thing that we have conceived in TEC, a lot of deliberations. We wrote papers on this, and we requested IIT Madras to develop that platform. They have done it successfully. So is the TOS, this kind of wireless testing, remote testing, is it something that we are doing on our own, or somebody else is also trying on the planet? Let us see this video. We will understand it.
5G is the future and holds tremendous promise, but getting there is not going to be easy. Different pieces, hardware, software, solutions must come together, and fitting them so they integrate and operate effectively requires an open and collaborative approach. At Dell Technologies, we are committed to driving success for all, including NEPs, ISVs, IHVs, and CSPs, with OTEL, the Open Telecom Ecosystem Lab, a physical and virtual environment that's secure and, yes, truly open. OTEL is an innovation testbed that focuses on certification and integration, making sure all components fit together, as well as solution development and delivery, driving faster time to market. It provides access to equipment, software, solutions, and engineering expertise to drive integrated technology solutions. Use it as a training vehicle for your team or a testing ground to demo new ideas. OTEL encourages collaboration on all fronts to support partner programs, link to industry initiatives, and help develop new and lucrative services for CSPs. And OTEL's new solution integration platform enables partners and CSPs to accelerate and de-risks the design, build, and delivery of 5G solutions using the latest DevOps techniques. Why continue to work furiously in silos when you can align collectively, open up your opportunity that is 5G, because the sum is always greater than the parts. Learn more.
Okay. So until now, we talked about testing. Let us also look at what kind of certifications will happen. Future testing and certification. Now imagine the opportunities. I challenge everybody. You can open your thoughts and question us. So information technology, open trust technology provider standards. It is so when there is a product that is developed, it is consisting of a lot of certificates. So who will talk? Who will keep these certificates, and how can we do mitigation of the duplicate products? So this is the mitigation, maliciously tainted and counterfeit. This is a kind of a surveillance what we talk about. And this TTPS is designed to mitigate the risk of counterfeit and tainted components to help assure products integrity and supply chain security throughout the life cycle of the product. TEC is coming with a certifying bodies framework. I encourage everybody to apply, and it is a great opportunity. And these certifying bodies eventually will have this kind of TTPS mechanism, so that they will be, when there is a dispute between the SSOs and labs or anybody, this certifying bodies will stand as a witness in the court. So this jurisprudence exists here. So this is the power of the certifying bodies in future. So eventually digital twinning of the certificates, entire product remains in a pocket in the form of certificates. That is a digital twinning of certificates to protect the supply chain security, which is a huge business case in future. So labs, everywhere labs. Without labs, there is no business. And to appreciate this, I would like to show you another small video, just only 3 minutes. You will really appreciate after seeing this video.
Security Matters solution to conflict minerals challenge using IoT Square digital twin blockchain. What if there was a way of verifying the authenticity of an aircraft's part back to its raw material? The metal parts of the aircraft come from ore mined underground. Security Matters technology enables a drop-in, unique, and invisible solution for marking raw material. Embedded digitally via blockchain to create a trusted bridge between the physical and digital worlds. From mine to refinery. This way, no matter what happens along the way, with Security Matters supply chain integrity solution, you'll always be able to know if the material came from trusted sources. Or had been compromised, replaced, or faked, ensuring ethical mining. Once the raw material imprinted with Security Matters markers gets turned into the desired alloy, it can be synced with the blockchain to create a traceable signature, the digital twin of the alloy and part of the aircraft. When the alloy gets turned into aircraft parts, it still bears its unique signature. Allowing a global record of physical goods and unparalleled brand liability. In the future, if a part of the aircraft would ever malfunction, you'll always be able to verify its authenticity. And when it comes to recycling the aircraft, the recycler will always have the aircraft's part life cycle liability, ensuring an efficient, cost-saving, and sustainable future for the aircraft. Security Matters breakthrough technology of blockchain monitoring to enable a circular economy.
So this is how I think you can appreciate now what's the important of. And one more small slide. This is my final argument, and this is my final conclusion. So now, recycling. For example, you take Apple phones. 30% of the components, they are being used recycled today. So these are going to be ESG regulations globally. If India has to prepare to manufacturing and exporting any goods, if we have any idea of thinking like that in this direction, we have to prepare for all these ESG guidelines. See, we are going crazy. We will make it make in India. You make a product which you can't sell across the globe if you don't follow the ESG guidelines. See, in every new civilization, what happens? There will be new rules in the game. So if we don't predict and understand the new rules, we will remain back. That is what happening to this country. So today, I think we have a very great opportunity to have a great leader for us. So Prime Minister Modi's interest is to encourage us to think in this direction, create this kind of ESG governance based products. So now my final argument to my lab fraternity is, my first question was, can we make it viable? If it's viable, why only in India? So my third question is, why invest in India? India is a telecom test and certification destination. This is my argument. This is my conclusion, my hypothesis. If somebody wants to contradict, yes, you are welcome to question me. Because it is low cost of scales, low infra cost, big digital public infra, largest network in the world. We have largest telecom network, hosting almost global data, largest fintech, lot of digital transactions, largest in the world, great startup ecosystem, large MSMEs. India software testers are known to work proficiently with the various platforms, devices, and software frameworks, and are flexible in scaling up or down based on the project requirements. Testing companies offer 24/7 services. As per survey that is Quick, I think they have done it, India shall be the #1 market leader in testing. AI will grab all other jobs, but not testing. Future India, after call centers, coding, now it is a testing. If we don't focus on testing, invest on testing, our youngsters will go jobless. Because if we still think that we will have a call centers that is taken already by AI, if we think about that we are expert coders, AI can do coding, but this is one place where we can create employment and we can still work with our citizens. So my ultimate, we love to handhold you, everybody, both OEMs and labs. Please join hands in Atmanirbhar Bharat efforts. Thank you. Welcome, all. So, thank you all for joining this session. I think it's encouraging. We would love to take questions if anybody. Yeah, please. Yeah. You can ask.
Sir, namaskar. Thank you. I think people know me as Professor N.K. Goyal, Chairman Tima. Madam, 3 compliments and 2 suggestions. Compliment to you, Madam, personally, because it is after you were joining here that we are going for testing, because this was the idea given by our former Secretary Raja Ramanji. He said in the meeting in TEC, why can't we have something like Ola Uber for testing? So that is the first thing. Second compliment is that yes, this will lead India to become the testing hub for the world. Third compliment to you and the entire team. In fact, the presentation given by Mr. Prasad does not look to be from India. And you have a wonderful team. Every officer is a diamond in a necklace. Now, 2 suggestions. First is that I think as of now, test is meaning for in-country testing by certified NABL labs. Am I right for that? Prasad?
Yeah, you can continue your question and then we'll answer.
So this is the question only.
Okay.
Because then my next session comes on this thing only.
Yeah, see, like as I told you, we are interested to develop the test ecosystem in this country. So that is why we are trying to insist on the laboratories by NABL approved, yeah, accredited. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now my suggestion number 1 is, if we can extend these test facilities to the experts testing facilities available in the OEMs, in the manufacturing industries, they may not be NABL compliant, but they have the facilities that test the things. That was the one suggestion. My
Yeah, we
second,
already have a this called witness testing. So that is there is no provision. We will do that. Yeah,
okay,
we
I
can.
was not doing that.
Yes.
Now my second suggestion, madam, if we can work out on one direction, can we have one India, one standard? Because as of today, the standards made either by TEC or by ITU or by IEEE or by ISO or anybody in the world is not mandatory in India. Not mandatory for the government or for the private. So if we can have this thing, then I think we will be moving speed fast for India as a test hub. Now, we last was the information. Two information. Sir, Apple is making every year a new phone. I think we dream that Apple doesn't need a certificate or testing. Nobody bothers whether Apple phone is tested or not. And you spoke of SEP and front. Front and SEP has involved multiple cases in the world for two reasons. One, there is a NDA, so nobody tells what is the arrangement he has signed with somebody else. For SAP, there is nobody in the world who declares that this is the SAP. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody wants to react to that?
So I wanted to give the only one answer about the standards. The standards, one nation, one standards. Standards, it's depending upon the applications. Standard is not depending upon the product. If the product, I'm using the same product, it's in different applications area, then standard may differ. So the standards, why the maximum standards? For an example, you can talk about in the IEEE standards. IEEE standards, so I'm representing IEEE because I'm in a standard committee of IEEE. So IEEE, they are not a mandatory standard. It's a regulations. It's a guidelines. Means it is for the procedures. It is for the procedure. ITU, it's a recommendations. ITU is not a mandatory standards. ITU is a recommendations. Wherever, whenever we don't have any regulated standard, those area we have to adopt the procedure standard. Example, for I can say the jitter and vendor testing for the interfaces, telecom interfaces, jitter and vendor, we don't have any regulated testing. So that's what only we have to use ITUT. Means G standards for sophometric testing. For EMI/MC also in a sophometric testing, we have ITUT O.40. So wherever, whenever there is no proper testing, proper standard is regulated, those areas only we are adopted IEEE as well as in ITUT standards, or otherwise we have our regulated HC standards. For in India, we have our IS standards, and TEC we are adopted the global standard because of when in the standard committee was formed at that time, we are talk about in the standards, the customer needs to be used the same standard. It need to be applicable for an example, if we going to be selling in America or European Union, as well as he is going to be selling what's African Union, the same report going to be accepted. I mentioned that in TEC means apart from TEC, there is no regulatory body, or the reason there is no designated body in the world mention the multiple standard as options. In 2.4 means I can talk about Bluetooth Wi-Fi, which is the predominantly operated from 2400 to 2480 megahertz. TEC mentioned clearly HCEN 300/328 standard, or the option is FCC Part 15C. Because both are the test and then test method is varies, but they gave the leverage to the manufacturers. Either you can use FCC standards or you can use the HC standards. So it's already we are giving very leverage and then optional standards to manufacturers, sir.
Actually, maybe because I was a brief, my question arises. I cannot supply even a plug to US or China without certified by some agency there. In my country, I can import any equipment or any department will procure something based on some specifications. The standards made by BIS or by TEC, if in India or any other body, THSI, are not mandated. If If I have to test my plug also in China, why not in India?
Thank you, sir. Actually, since we are running short of time, we will have offline thorough discussions on this, and we'll conclude. And we have given everybody feedback forms. Kindly put your questions, and we want you to challenge our ideas so that we can improve ourselves. So I request everybody to proactively write your, challenge our ideas, challenges why India should be a test bed, for the world, why it can't be. I really love to receive everybody's. Unless we don't challenge, we don't question, we don't improve ourselves. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate Sangita, and from Nigeria and different nations. We have representatives here and lab fraternities, and Mr. Goyal, Mr. Gupta from TEPC. Thank you so much for joining us, and all of my colleagues and all the students and fraternity. Thank you so much. I think it is an educative. I think it's a little bit mind opening. You can start thinking on these lines. If you want to collaborate with TEC, we are already there, always there. We would like to handhold you in all your endeavors. Thank you so much. Thanks for this session. Thank you.
is geopolitical. Even if whatever cost you are willing to pay for any component which is needed, as I told everywhere else, if the price is too high, or if you cannot get because of the geopolitical reasons, you cannot survive. Therefore, it is not merely a desire, it is a survival that is at question. And that is why today's time is very important to talk about semiconductor. And this whole debate about policy, ecosystem, manufacturing is in that context. Secondly, now having established that we need all this, what are we doing, right? For example, India today is growing very, very rapidly. That means each of us as a human being, we are consuming more and more content of the semiconductor, and therefore that content will increase our import bill, as we talked about. In order to control on that, in order to leverage the capability of India, in order to address geopolitical challenges that have recently emerged, and more particularly during and after COVID, is where we need to focus on semiconductor manufacturing significantly. If we look merely at all the industries, and I am particularly representing at this point of time about the Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya, which is India's only university in the transportation sector, whether it be railways, ports, shipping, aviation, any form of this is all about electronics and semiconductor. Similarly, I also am a member of the Management Council on India's only semiconductor lab, that is SCL, which has been operating since long, and there have been a lot of efforts that we are making to modernize it, to address the demand-supply gap that we have. If we really look at that, there are many attempts that have been made since the policy semiconductor was announced in December 2021. I happen to have some role in the DLI scheme. Therefore, if we look at, of course, we are relying in the semiconductor policy in attracting investment, attracting companies from outside by offering them some sort of incentives to set up their facility here. As was mentioned by the previous speaker, we are doing that because we already know there is a great design ecosystem that exists in India, whether it is through the biggest multinationals, some of them are represented currently in this panel and elsewhere. So we have a very large design space and engineers that are available and working in that space. So we are designing systems, we are not manufacturing them here. If we are able to manufacture them here, and not only manufacture, but if ultimately in practical life, it is the solution that matters. It is not important which component come from where. For a consumer, it is the end solution that matters. If we are able to develop that whole ecosystem where components, parts, chip, modules are made in India, along with the necessary software to make a complete solution, is what we need today. And that I personally believe that is very important. It has even become much more critical with this emphasis of the semiconductor policy, with the announcements that we recently had of Micron setting up first ATM facility, or with AICT rolling out VLSI related programs for the first time in 170 colleges. So therefore, country as a whole is putting significant emphasis in the semiconductor sector. One of the principles that I want to talk about, the fact on which our university set up, is what is called as PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan. That is all about integrated planning amongst different ministries and departments. I think that is something that is also required in this whole ecosystem as we try to set up the semiconductor ecosystem. Another important part for which we are set up is national logistics policy. So tomorrow when we set up manufacturing facility, we have to worry a lot about intra-logistics of the movement of materials, whether it's timely available or not within a production unit to increase our yields. And therefore, the whole question, not merely of availability, but also of operational efficiency of the systems that we are going to set up, is therefore very important. Just to summarize, the key elements that are required, of course, are investments that are needed and that are currently happening with the strong government, having encouraging policies for the investors to do that, along with the manpower that is available in India, which is talented, and with the commitment from the Ministry of Electronics and IT to produce 85,000 trained, skilled manpower in the VLSI sector over the next 5 years, and with the universities like us who are specialized for the specific sector. If I just take name of one sector, for example, today, railways. Railways is doing a lot of technology modernization in terms of bringing indigenous trains and technologies like Vande Bharat. all of them involve significant amount of electronics and semiconductor component. We have to look at an ecosystem where we identify the local needs. Design is very strong in India, so we design that specific component and the needs locally. Set up a manufacturing facility, as talked by the previous speaker. Need not be everything can be an advanced node. There are significant amount of components that can still be used or deployed using legacy nodes, and then look at a model which completes local need to local design to local manufacturing to local deployment. I think moment we are able to do that, there will be a great ecosystem that will be created in the country, which will be further spurred by the kind of talented manpower that we are producing across the universities, and particularly a university like Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chaudhary. So very similar question to you as well, Raghavan, given that you represent a very large semiconductor company yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. And first of all, thanks for making for this session. I know it's tough after lunch and third day. And the topic is extremely interesting. It's very relevant and extremely interesting topic. And that's why I said I thank you for attending this session. I mean, I know manufacturing of semiconductor is a very hot topic. So, but if you look at the topic of the session a little bit more carefully, its role of India in shifting the global semiconductor landscape. We are highlighting the manufacturing part of it, but look at the overall landscape, right? Just to give you one heads up, if you have read or if you are interested to understand how the global semiconductor landscape changed over the years, there is a very interesting book called Chip War. Just refer to the book Chip War. It is going to summarize the entire semiconductor landscape, how it shifted from US to Europe to China to Taiwan, and now trying to shift to Southeast Asia and India, right? So there are three elements in the semiconductor journey, right? First of all, the IP. IPs are available by this, I mean, they are made by the semiconductor companies and also available from third-party design houses. They are the IP design companies like ARM, Synopsys, Mentor Graphics. Then the second aspect is the semiconductor chip itself. You design the chip and you outsource the manufacturing. Some of the semiconductor companies make in-house IDM, and some of them are fabless. So we are representing, or my company is a fabless semiconductor company. What does it mean? We outsource wafers, or we buy wafers from third party, and including the assembly, testing, and manufacturing of the final chip itself, right? Now the third aspect is the demand aspect of the semiconductor chips. As Professor said and previous speaker said, so these are semiconductors is become a part of day-to-day life. You cannot live without semiconductor because any electronic gadget requires semiconductor. So why I'm giving you this context is how the semiconductor landscape shifted in the past and how it's shifting, right? Now coming to the India context, the whole debate is import bill. After oil, the second biggest import is electronics. Why it's increasing? Because the electronic consumption in India is now amongst the world top 5 consumption of electronics. So just to give you some references, we are the second largest mobile phone consuming country in the world. 155 smartphones consumed by India. We are the third largest automobile market. It should be passenger vehicles, commercial vehicles, or the two-wheelers. So I'm not going to go into statistics of all the consumer, I mean, even consumer electronics. When we say consumer, it's home appliances. It could be smart TV, set-top box, Wi-Fi access points, smart homes, refrigerators, washing machines, right? So just to give you a context, I know most of you are from this industry, and none of the semiconductors are manufactured in India today. Everything is imported. So now how the landscape is going to change is, until you invite these electronic products like smartphone products to manufacture in India, smart TV products, automobile, electronic companies to manufacture in India, the semiconductor companies will not invest in India. So assuming all these smartphones companies are still in China or Korea or US, or automobile companies are in Europe, right? This government, or of course, I'm not getting political, but the government of India, right? They realize that first you invite the product companies. That's why the PLI scheme rolled out, production link incentive for the IT products, smartphones, telecom products. And because of product companies coming in India, they realize that, okay, we should do semiconductor in India as well now. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take at least 3 to 5 years to see a full-fledged semiconductor. I'm not talking about assembly, test, and packaging. I'm talking about making of wafers in India. It could be whatever node, whichever companies. We are just, at least 3 to 5 years ahead. So coming back to MediaTek perspective, honestly, as I said, we are a fabless company. We don't do fabs in-house. Neither we do assembly, testing, and packaging. We do only final verification of the chip. So we outsource 100% to third-party companies. Either companies majoritarily are in Taiwan, and of course, dependency on Vietnam and China is still very huge. So how MediaTek is planning for helping India aspirations or Indian aspirations to have ATMP or wafer fab manufacturing? Of course, as the government policies is benefiting our outsourced companies and government policies are kind of inviting the wafer fab companies and the ATMP companies, we are very strongly advocating. Our HQs, including our CEO, if you Google up, our chairman and CEO are very clear. We are investing in India as and when our third party, the outsourced companies come into India, we are going to start assembly, test, manufacturing, and packaging in India.
I see.
So that's very clear from MediaTek perspective.
Got it. Thank you, Raghavan. That's very clear. Prasad, over to you from your perspective.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So I think Amit talked about the semiconductor opportunities and how every company is looking at that. Now, if you just pause for a moment, semiconductor industry is about 75 years old. And then the kind of numbers that it has hitting as of last year is about $550 billion. Now, what industries are talking about is that this 550 is going to cross $1 trillion in the next 7 years. So what it means is that what took the industry to achieve in 75 years, the industry is going to do it in the next 7 years. Just imagine that for a moment. Now, automatically that boils down to there is opportunities, right? So what are the key indicators for opportunities? One is every government is showing interest because they realize that the semiconductor is the bedrock of any technology innovation, any segment, any vertical. I think the industry probably had taken the semiconductor segment for granted. But now they have realized that the most important industry for the digital transformation in the world is semiconductors. Right? That's why it's going to become 500 billion to $1 trillion. It's not magic, right? Now, if that's going to double, every government is trying to see how can that contribute to the GDP of that country. So all the countries are trying to say that, okay, we are keen to invest. We want companies to come and then invest. So it's going to be a collaborative approach going forward. Now, coming to India, India historically in the last 30, 35 years has developed probably the most technically advanced capabilities and expertise for semiconductors. Today, about 20% of the semiconductor engineers in the world are from India. And by 2030, it's expected that it will be 30%, which means that every third engineer in the semiconductor industry is going to come from India. So there's an opportunity. Now, government is interested. The market is going to double in 7 years. Everyone is talking about investing in countries. There is a geopolitical situation. And then there is talent, right? India is producing probably the most highest number of engineers every year, right? I think just last year, about 1.5 million people wrote for engineering. That's massive numbers. That kind of the engineering workforce that is available is so humongous that even if you take a percentage of that, that addresses the need of semiconductor industry. So if you take all the aspects, talent, government involvement, companies are trying to take it as the most important thing. It's impacting the GDP of many countries. And then there is this initiative to expand from design and then expand into manufacturing also. So most of the countries which were focused on design are trying to expand into manufacturing. And countries that are doing manufacturing are trying to see that how can I get into design. So it's kind of a very, very interesting situation in the market today. And then whichever way you look at it, every country is going to benefit from it.
Thank you, Prasad. So we were also joined by Mr. Sahu. Thank you. So we just got started. Mr. Sahu, I think it was an icebreaker question. How do we see the opportunity in the semiconductor space? So from a government, especially as member services department telecommunication, what's your thoughts on that, please?
Good afternoon. Definitely, the semiconductor industry in India, it is not there at present. Government also want to encourage the semiconductor industry in India. Right now, we have only one company, that is semiconductor in Chandigarh, and they are also manufacturing that is 180 mm, 180 nano nm, and our industry requirement is now mainly 28 and 40 nm. So government is very much interested to upgrade the existing infrastructure so that majority of the equipment can be used by that 28 and 40 nm. Definitely, apart from this, we require the ecosystem also in India to be developed, like in packaging, and PCB manufacturing is also one of the important area. Right now, all industry required high level PCB, like 18 layer PCB, and all are manufactured abroad. So those facilities are also required, packaging, PCB, in addition to the fabrication industry. So government is very much encouraging the industry by giving the incentive or whatever financial support is required.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sahu. So maybe I'll come back to you now, Hari. Okay. So Hari, I think interesting points that you made, I was just noting them down. You said start from the end market, design is important.
From a manufacturing perspective.
Manufacturing perspective, yeah.
That's
Exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. I think just recapitulating for Mrs. Howe as well and for the audience. And then you said, packaging is something very interested, which is immediate opportunity for you, right? And my question to you, Hari, is two things. I mean, sub A, sub B. A is that, how are you looking to make packaging in India a reality? Number one. Number two, as a startup, as a successful startup in semiconductor, you think that your timing is right, or you think few things to be changed?
So we make some of the most advanced semiconductor chip for the 5G space, right? So we don't make the chips that go into the UE phone, but we make the chips that go into the base station, right? So it's a complex, large complex, we should stream data rate at 10 GPS per second wirelessly. So now your question is, how tough is, and we work with OSATs all over the world. I cannot do, some of the OSAT manufacturing work here because there's no packaging. So, and packaging would need investment and serious investment. I believe some of the packaging, if you see advanced packaging houses with enough number of testers, each tester costs probably around $2 million. So we'll need n number of testers to see that the volume of the chips that is manufactured are being tested continuously. So huge investment into test plants and assembly. So that will take few hundred millions is my estimate for doing a packaging, startup or an OSAT kind of facility, packaging plus OSAT in India. That's the kind of investment that we should be got in so that we can do. And semiconductor companies that are starting here can do packaging locally.
That's what we are looking at. And one more point I would like to say, when you say, I said free to semiconductor design. Semiconductor design and software go together. So softwareization is key. India's strength is software. Of course, I have a point that the Indian software companies, the biggest problem they should solve is not how fast I can get that pizza to your home. I don't believe that's the focus that the Indian software companies, startups should do, but they should solve key technological problems for AI and machine learning and the 5G and the stack, for example, right? They should solve that problem also. Along with the semiconductor design, softwareization, what I was saying, the PCB and the making the box and the board and the system. We should also have the other end and the software also, and software startups which can do critical software here. And one piece missing, I believe, is getting the package stuff also done in India so that we can do the internet.
Thank you. Thank you, Hari. Professor Chaudhary, it was something very interesting he said. He said that don't focus on the timely or expedited delivery of pizza, but look at the stacks. So from a academician, the role that you are now spearheading, you think there is a little bit of a cultural or a mindset change in the students also that needs to happen to get them for what the opportunity is, and what Prasad was saying, that possibly every third engineer would be an Indian in the semiconductor space. Your thoughts on that?
Our young generation is all about how we inspire them. I firmly believe, and maybe my friends in the semiconductor industry sitting on the dais can also validate, that salaries in the semiconductor industry are highly competitive and quite high compared to many other sectors. If it is so, and we always talk about semiconductor talent is quite expensive, right? If so, that means that there is a great demand. And still at the same time, we also say many people want to do only machine learning. Therefore, there is a confusion between both. We know there is a demand, but we have not been able to inspire our students to take up electronic design, semiconductor design, and so on. Even, for example, you look in the semiconductor industry in India, you will not find many engineers who can look from a system architecture point of view in terms of power performance area considerations, can do a great floor planning, or can do a very optimized design. Very, very few engineers still exist. So from academic point of view, like I mentioned in my first time when I was talking today, first and most important thing for semiconductor system is to look at solution oriented approach. That is, if you look at a phone, what does a consumer look at? Consumer looks at a phone as a device that will help him or her. So it is not merely a piece of a great hardware or only a software. A system is always about a great hardware enabled by a superior software. And therefore, both have to go hand in hand. Semiconductor is a capital intensive industry. And that is where we will face, of course, whatever investments we do will never ever be enough, because it has a long cycle time to give the returns based on those investments. Therefore, I firmly believe in a select and focus strategy. A select and focus strategy would mean, for example, having been on the board of SCL semiconductor that we talked to, I can definitely say that first foremost strategy is in terms of looking at the products we are offering and how those products are helping and delivering value to our stakeholders. I think that is one of the fundamental things. It is not important on how many chips we manufacture or how many give, but where are they used, how functional they have been, did they meet the performance criteria for which they were designed for. So I think that is one culture that we have to. If we look from Indian government point of view, significant efforts have been put, right? Chip to Startup program was a great program started by the Ministry of Electronics and IT a couple of years back. That means how the chips, semiconductor chips that are designed in academic institutes can have a partnership with a startup so that they are not only semiconductor chips, they result into a solution or a product that ultimately benefit the consumer or end consumer. So that is one of the great, that actually has helped a large number, particularly almost 100 of the institutions taking up semiconductor related projects and products. Second thing I want to urge semiconductor industry present here is that when the students who are currently pursuing semiconductor dreams in the respective colleges, how do we set up the semiconductor laboratories that help them to experiment, that help them to do? We cannot rely on the same kind of experiments that we were doing 30 years back when we were going to a basic electronics lab. The infrastructure in the universities also need to change because we are looking for skilling, right? Third part is this technology changing very fast. And as there is a famous quotation that illiterates of the 21st century are not those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Therefore, we have to constantly have a significant focus on continuous and executive education and training for all engineers in the sector. People who have joined semiconductor industries, whichever they be, if they continue to remain same at the same skill level, there is no way we are going to upskill the entire country to be able to take up the next generation new node, advanced node semiconductor challenges. So therefore, training is important, investment is important, solution mindset is important, and also when those solution mindsets that are delivering as a system and we consume that as a system, lot more training is needed. I think this is again, once again, I'm coming back to the same. Gati Shakti principle is all about end user. It is about integrated planning. So when we design a chip or a system, we have to think about the end goal, that is whether power, performance, area, or any of such criteria that we have put are met or not. It is not important merely to have a functional requirement met, just like that a road has been made. We have to make a road that will last. Similarly, we have to make a semiconductor system that will last. So these are, I think, 3 or 4 very, very fundamental reasons and things that are happening. Government on its parts is spending not only money, but significant effort even in modernizing all aspects. For example, bringing investments in some of foreign companies, top companies like Micron and others to India. Our own internal SCL, we are trying to modernize it significantly by not only focusing on strategic sectors like defense and space, but also in the commercial space, in the railways, in transportation sector. So we have to also open up and also believe as a country our own products. If we make semiconductor chips and systems in India, we also should be ready to able to take and deploy them rather than merely believing their quality exists elsewhere. I think I will stop at this point of time.
No, wise words, Professor. Absolutely. Raghavan, I'm going to take up from you when you talked about MediaTek being very closely hand in glove with outsourced partners, right? So there is already established outsourced partners that you have. How amenable MediaTek is looking at someone who's now emerging as a new outsourcing, a new foundry, for example? So what's your thoughts on that? I mean,
Yeah, it's a very tough question, and let me answer you. So if you look at the foundry or manufacturing outsourcing, right, you have hardly 5 big folks in terms of fabs and foundries. You want me to name them? I can name them, and you have to choose one among the 5. And how do you choose is based on the end product you are catering to.
Raghavan, what I meant was a new foundry coming into play.
I know, but you have to allow me to tell how do we choose a foundry first, then tell you how we can choose a new foundry, right? So to answer your question, new foundry is a very tough proposition to choose, and the process it goes through, because you are looking at several quality process, manufacturing process. The reason is it's going to have a huge impact on the SOC what you're going to roll out, and the PPM levels, quality levels, and it has final bearing on the SOC cost as well. So if you want me to answer straightforward, that's the answer, but you have to choose. And just to give you an example, 90% of our foundry business is with TSMC. And I think so very few is with global foundries. And recently we signed up with Intel for kind of being close with US government, right? I'm talking about MediaTek in Taiwan perspective, not from India perspective. So choosing a foundry is very tough, and foundry is even much more intensive than OSAT or even semiconductor manufacturing. So if you look at Intel, Samsung, and TSMC, these are the big foundries, and their market share or revenue or company valuation itself is just because of the foundry and the amount of capex investment you have to do. Right? So if you ask me if there is a new foundry which can come up, and semiconductor companies have a choice to work with a foundry, not in the near future because it's capital intensive. And number 2, semiconductor companies don't want to risk. That's why I'm saying we are doing 90% with TSMC. Though we have Samsung or Global Foundries or AMC, I mean SMC, SMIC, others. Intel was due to being proximity to the US government because Taiwanese companies have compulsion to be proximity. So that's the answer on the
No, I
new
mean,
form.
why change if it's not needed, right? So
Yeah, no, why change is not needed. It might be needed, but nobody would dare to invest in a new foundry.
understood, Raghavan. Thank you, Raghavan, for the frank
problem.
views
Thank you.
there. Prasad, you had a very interesting sub theme there. Design companies getting into manufacturing, manufacturing into design. From an India context, how do you see that shaping up over the next 2-3 years?
I think if you see design engineering actually fosters innovation, right? It kind of focuses on talent, expertise, IP, building the whole chip from a paper to a product kind of a stuff. So manufacturing actually helps you to build self-reliancy, right? So that you're not dependent on imports, dependent on third-party countries for your growth. So a balanced approach is ideal, right? You need to foster innovation. You also need to improve the self-reliancy. Now it's a journey, right? Now, so far what we have done is that we have excelled in design engineering. We have like millions of people who are working in this industry, touching almost every silicon that gets taped out in the world. There is a role that an engineer would have played one way or the other. Now, did it all happen in day one? No, it took us about 35 years to get here. So manufacturing probably we will have to speed up. That's why I think the government coming up with so many incentive schemes, encouraging companies to invest so that there is a PLI scheme. So it's saying that, hey, I am also sticking my neck out to make this successful, right? So it's a very clear message to say that there is an opportunity. We need to embrace that. At the same time, we should not lose sight on design engineering because we need to we are known for innovation, right? The talent, the IT, the embedded engineering, the chip design capabilities. I think a balanced approach is the right way to go for the next 5 to 10 years and then see how the trajectory expands. And also the good news is that India is opening up as a big market, right? Every segment you take, automotive, consumer, energy, aerospace, defense, communications, 5G, about 600, 700 million subscribers in the next 4 years. So all these are opportunities for the semiconductor companies. So that way, I think India automatically becomes the place to build support for the local market also. So there is a third trajectory coming in that so far India was not a big market. So you kind of look at design, you look at manufacturing, and then you look at what ecosystem needs to be built for the support for the domestic market.
Thank you, Prasad. Mr. Sahu, I mean, I think the panel unanimously says that there is a significant policy measures which have been taken. The semiconductor policy, for example, is a great initiative. From a commitment, also the fact that it's a difficult ask, right? It's not an easy walkthrough to have a huge manufacturing base of semiconductor. From a policy making perspective, what's the level of commitment you see in the government to make this really reality?
First of all, I will just want to tell that now the requirement of semiconductor definitely will increase day by day. See, earlier we have an electric meter, now we have a smart meter. So in here, if you can see the whatever startups are there, innovations are there, like in agriculture field, how to increase the crop. So innovations are taking place, and this our
IMC shows that how many people are there, startups at college level or this level. So definitely the requirement of devices will increase, and driverless car, and with the 5G and 6G. So India should have the fab industry, and we are going towards developed country. So that is also one of the factor that we should have. Definitely, the government of India, like he told, that giving the incentives, but definitely this is a capital incentive. Heavy capital is required, and return is long term. So government is thinking that how to support, and definitely just I told that one SCL is there. So government try to upgrade that to give the current requirement or near future requirement, because to build a new fab with a heavy investment it may be difficult. Similarly, for semiconductor industry, it is not only fabrication. Other parameters are also there, other components are also there. For like a complete solution, he told the complete solution should be there. It is not only a fabrication. So initially, why I feel that side companies will grow, and with fabrication, India definitely will independent. India will not be dependent on the other country, like you heard during COVID period, the chip, because of the chip, the manufacturing of the cars affected. And COVID also learned that we should be self-reliant, self-dependent. From government side, definitely government will give the whatever limited support is financial support, and like other land support or whatever is possible, definitely government will think of.
Please.
On this topic, I have a request to the one key factor for bringing this manufacturing would be the geopolitical issues. So the government should take initiative to work with friendly countries to do technology transfer. How do you do that? And how do you collaborate and do technology transfer from friendly countries or frenemies to India? How do you do that? That is a key aspect for us to be successful, and that's something only the government of India can drive.
No, good point, Hari. I don't know. I saw in the news that India-Japan MOU on the semiconductor, India-Taiwan collaboration. So you absolutely bang on. I think there is something
That
happening
we have to
around
depend on Saath to make that happen.
yeah.
Yeah.
So let me just open this up for the audience. I mean, if there is any, you have one. Okay, excellent. Somebody can pass through the mics, please. I think I can see 2 hands raised here. So your name and the question, and to whom you are directing it to, please.
Hello. Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Jelena. My question is to Shri
You have to
Ajay
be
Kumar.
louder. Sorry, please. I can't. I don't know of others. Yeah.
Am I audible
Yes,
now?
please. Thank you.
Okay, so good evening, gentlemen. This is Jelena, and my question is to Mr. Sahu. I wanted to ask that what are the key challenges that India is currently facing in the semiconductor industry? Again, I have another question to Mr. Prasad. The question is, the government and the Indian industry are focused in establishing a fabulous ecosystem, as we all know. How do you think India can capitalize on its design and manufacturing skill, and what is the progress that is expected to be achieved in the semiconductor space in the upcoming years? Thank you.
Hello. I think main issue what government is thinking, one is the ecosystem for the semiconductor industry, which is presently not available in India. Second is the volume, viability. It is also important. How the volume will come, because you install a industry, but volume should also be there to self-sustain the fab industry. I think these 2 points are from
Prasad,
what I'm thinking.
you heard the question, right, Prasad? You heard the question? The second part of the question.
Question was, what is analog devices?
I can repeat it. Sure. Okay. Good evening again. The government and the Indian industry are focused on establishing a fabulous ecosystem in the country. So, how do you think India can capitalize on its design and manufacturing skill? And the second part of the question is, what is the progress that is expected to be achieved in the semiconductor space in the upcoming years? Thank you.
I think, thanks for the question. I think every company is looking at India as probably the most important market and certainly the fastest growing market. Now, that's evident because India is going to grow faster than the market when it comes to the semiconductor industry. Then we talked about $1 trillion, and then India is going to contribute significantly in that. And then as panelists mentioned, almost every segment there is growth for the semiconductor industry. And there are already some companies who have taken the first step for the leveraging the benefits of the government schemes. ADI, for that matter, most of the companies, if not the largest, the second largest R&D site is in India. Most of the companies, the numbers are like crazily high. Some companies have taken the next step of getting into the manufacturing, the assembly, the test packaging. Some companies are trying to see that if that is a problem they need to solve now, or should they focus it on later. So it all becomes the strategy of that particular organization. And based on that, I believe that it's just a matter of time that most of the companies will be able to leverage what India is trying to offer.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
See, one thing that we need to realize that we are living in a world where winner takes it all. That means in every single space, whichever technology industry you talk, you will have top 2 or 3 companies, and then others are maybe running somewhere here or there. Semiconductor is also exactly the same game. He already talked about for foundry players, top 3, and then maybe the crowd. So if India were to succeed, we have to do our investment, whether in capital, in human, where in tools, whatever, to be in the top 3. Cannot invest huge amount of money and still be just one of the fringe players. That is a very, very fundamental thing that we have to do. Second thing is, while the industry has a great desire, let me now talk based upon some experience that I have. The first time, this is a symbol, right? First time somebody heard that I am a professor, that they thought I'll ask some skill questions to him. Then I had to tell, no, I had a lot of experience in semiconductor industry. So industry and academia as a world have been considered 2 parallels that never meet. And that is one big issue. We are looking at trained manpower for the sector, industry is looking at. Academia thinks it can produce. There have been models of industry and academia collaborating earlier. Unfortunately, I believe those models were wrong. The models were, because the funding is squeezing for academia, it will look out for industry partner. So the goal is to get extra money or extra funding. The goal is not to understand what the industry needs and contribute what the industry as a stakeholder. Similarly, other way around, from industry point of view, goal is to look at what best quality talent I can get rather than how to leverage the best knowledge that might exist in a university or an institute. So industry academia collaboration, which was based on a giver-taker model, a transactional model, you give, you get something in return, has to completely transform to a co-creation and co-development model. What that means is that industry need to send their design kits. Industry need to make sure, because semiconductor game is a costly game, unless the licenses for the most important tools that you are using, whether for design or for floor planning or for your physical designs, they are made available. There is nothing can be done. If the students are not trained on them, industry will say that we are not getting skilled people who can be deployed on day one. So if you have to really fill this gap, both have to come to a midway. As the Vice Chancellor of Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya and speaking on behalf of all the academic institutions, all IITs in India, I urge the industry to please consider that when they make available their licenses, their tools on academic terms, we understand the difference between academic use and commercial uses, then they help in creating the manpower that they want to create and deploy for future. If they do that, then they're in position to employ the people who are readily trained for them and don't have to invest another year, 2 year, another time to train them. So this is a very, very important part. Second part of this whole puzzle is that much of the design talent can also be utilized in academia. Academia might not have manufacturing capability, they will not have, they are unlikely to have because this is a costly business. But design talent of the academia must be utilized well for several of the challenges, whether they are in the agriculture sector or health sector, everywhere we have this demand. So we have to make sector specific product plans and need to focus on that is something that I just wanted to add.
No, need to be more strategic. Completely understand.
I want to respond to sir. So sir put a challenge that trained engineers. I'm saying, sir, tomorrow I'm willing to start pick up your best students and start working with us as internship. From tomorrow, HQ will come to your office, come to sync up with you, and then we are willing to hire. We take students for internships, and then they will work on the best technology out there on earth. And we have what we do today is better than the engineers that we have today. It's from the best institutes in the globe. We have got Stanford University's grads. We have got IIT BTechs, NIT BTechs, IIT MTechs, IIC MTechs in my team. And I can tell you the team that we have, that your students as interns will work with us, will be better than anywhere, be it in Shanghai, Munich, or California. That much guarantee I can give you. And what you put a challenge to me, I'm saying tomorrow, let's sort it.
Let me help by saying that these days academia is also quite fast. I have brought students from my university here. So not tomorrow, from today you can do that.
I love this. So the outcome of this session would be hired people for him. No, brilliant. I think there was another question. You had okay. Oh, there are quite a few. I mean, we'll have to quickly do it around. Mic passing, please, if somebody. Oh, you have it. Go ahead, please. Name, question, and to whom.
Regards to all the honorary speakers, my name is Ujjwal Sonkar and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of a quantum communication startup, Quantum Shift. And we are working on some classified projects for the Ministry of Defense.
You just have to play with the physics of it. You just skip a little side here. Yeah.
So, is it audible?
Yeah. Just go ahead, please.
So we have been shortlisted for some classified projects for the Ministry of Defense, and we were working onto quantum channels and transferring into QKD, basically. But the problem we were facing is that quantum channel is considered the safest, but then the basic data, the key length of it, as well as it was around 40 kbps. That means we cannot use quantum channels. So we have to use the classical mode of communication for the normal data transfer. And they were asking that, do you have any semiconductor which is indigenously made with an architecture which we can check, unlike ARM, because we get unlicensed and we cannot check what's the backdoor inside. Somebody can have a backdoor or a malicious code which can compromise the national security. So we decided to work on to having our own architecture, which is not based on x86, ARM, or RISC-V as well. We are working for a defense grade semiconductor from the scratch. And I would like to ask you that, first of all, like I totally agree that we need some more people. So I'm very interested to hire some interns from your university, Vice Chancellor Manoj Chaudhary ji. And another thing is that we have to manufacture on 28 nanometer node inside India. We do not care about the wastage rate. We do not care about power efficiency. We do not care about anything. But these chips must be manufactured within the Indian soil, not leaving the Indian territory. So it could be like just manufacturing 5,000 chips, something like this. But these things will be used in the most critical sectors of the Indian government communication. So I would like to hear your views upon this and your suggestion. How can we build an Indian architecture from the scratch? Thank you.
Basically, how do you make a? Do you want to?
See, semiconductor system is all about ecosystem. You can make an architecture. You also need the associated tools with that. If you have seen several architectures, we are all conversant on architectures. RISC-V, of course, great news. But even the challenge to adoption is the entire ecosystem, the tools that is available. So making an architecture is one thing. We have to equally invest. So we can pick up any of the one area. The second part, I think you mentioned about the security aspect, right? Security in hardware particularly can be at many levels, right? It can be how do you make secure product, but also, for example, even for fabless companies, they make a RTL, convert to a GDS, send to a foundry, for example. And what comes from their back, and particularly if it is for a strategic sector, and if something is changed, right? How do you validate? Of course, design for testing, all that we do while designing, but what comes out from there and how do you make that? So that is another element of the hardware security. That so there are several aspects of that. At each of the layer, there is a security, and as is told in the security world, that when we talk about a trusted environment, there has to be trust at every single layer of the interface. So you cannot build a trusted system with one weak link, because your weak link is your strongest security that you have. So just to answer that.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is R.K. Singh. I work in the government. My question is personal. I just wanted to, what Professor Chaudhary has said is quite correct, that there can be only few winners in this semiconductor manufacturing space also. Thing is that the government incentives are the supply side, from the supply side. But whether we have the demand, enough demand to create new winners or to attract the global players to India. That is my question to the industry. Whether do we have enough demand for semiconductor to be manufactured in India to be profitable in the long run? Because government incentives cannot continue forever. It can only be a temporary solution for initial stages.
Sure. So, is there a demand? Definitely yes. Should semiconductor companies start investing in India? Answer is yes. It's already started, but it's not going to happen. Fab will come to India at day one. It's going to start from assembly, test, packaging. Then the fabrication will come into India. In terms of foundries, we were talking about what Professor said, and I was telling was foundries are very few, and out of them, top three are ruling the market. So I don't think so. There will be a new foundry with such huge capex investment going to come in short time, not just India, globally. But semiconductor companies, manufacturing, assembly, test, packaging is going to happen. It's inevitable. That's why I said before I could start my session, there's a book called Chip War. Again, I'm urging everybody who is in semiconductor industry, just read that book. Amazing book. So in next 2030, India will, I'm not predicting anything based on the book and the global political, socio-economic and demand. 2030, India is going to be a semiconductor powerhouse. That's assured. I think so. Even Mr. Prasad also spoke about the investments all these companies are making in terms of talent plus the designing aspect of the chip itself. 30% of engineers globally by 2030 will be from India.
I do agree that it is totally unbundled. The manufacturing and designing is unbundled.
Correct. Okay.
Designing may be done in one part of the globe and manufacturing may take place at the other part of the globe. So whether we can attract manufacturing core foundries in India or not, that is my question.
Yes, I did say yes. It's going to be manufactured. Design is already happening. Yeah, design manufacturing is going to come to India. It's going to start with assembly, test, and packaging, then the fabrication units.
Yeah, thank you. There, please. There is a hand there. I think last two questions, I guess. I think, okay, last two questions there. I think the gentleman up behind, please. He raised his hands first. Yeah.
I'm Atul Bali, Director National Smart Grid Mission, Ministry of Power. I think giving a cue to the first gentleman which has asked question and also to the, I think, the onboard member. We are into a major drive of nearly smart meters, 250 million smart meters in India. That is a huge market. And keeping that in mind, we are also, the ministry is targeting the Make in India. Keeping that in mind, I think the semiconductor chips comes out a very ambitious drive with the government of India has taken. So we are looking at a timeline. So can I think the board on DICE can suggest something, the timeline we're looking at the fab and the developing these all chips in India. Because until unless we do have a semiconductor base in India and the market for that, market we have, but the supply chain and everything that, what is the visibility of that coming on board in India?
Who wants to? Prasad, you want to take it? I mean, the question.
Question is regarding the semiconductor chip requirement in case of meter industry, especially the smart meter.
Okay, I get your meter.
And the
He's
huge
talking about
market.
specifically
Yeah.
smart meter.
Yeah.
Okay, I get your question. Yeah, sure. Smart metering needs a communication chip. The metering chip is the MCU, which does the metrology, and the smart metering aspect is the communication chip. I know. So metrology chips is given by 2 or 3 companies only, so I don't represent that company. I can talk on behalf of the communication company. So because we do communication. So people either use LoRa, Sigfox, NB-IoT, but most popular communication device used in smart metering is either Cat1, Cat-M, or NB-IoT globally. Because you have cellular infrastructure, you're going to rely on cellular. So are there plans for semiconductor companies to manufacture this chip in India? Definitely yes. But as I said, it. Go ahead. You want to follow up?
Yeah. Actually, what we have had discussion regarding the 5G chips and everything like the use cases. Of course, the NB-IoT, I think, is going on a big way. But the Cat-M still we don't have at that time in India. But that is regarding the communication. But altogether, otherwise, even the major manufacturers are getting the metering chips, etc., from outside India. So that is keeping in mind. But we are targeting 50% plus make in India. So if the semiconductor chips, etc., are not manufactured and supplied, so I think that will be a bottleneck, and altogether we will be assembling and doing all things. Yeah.
Sure. So only metering chip or communication chip cannot be done in India. It has to be the whole ecosystem which has to move to India, number one. And if somebody who is making this chip or designing this chip, they cannot manufacture only this chip. So it has to be the series of chips. Only then there is a return of investment. Otherwise, it's not going to make. You can't address only smart metering or communication for smart metering or a mobile phone. So it has to start somewhere. I agree. So they are planning to start either strategically relevant for India, 28 nanometer or 40 nanometer, which is most consumed nanometer or devices in that nanometer in India. So answering to a specific segment and specific device is very tough question. And I don't think so it's going to happen. Nowhere in the world, a specific application like smart metering or a specific communication module or a chip getting manufactured in the world in any country has never happened. There is a volume, yes. Yes, agreed. Absolutely. It's already under consideration. I think so. Even government considers smart metering as a very strategic segment. No doubt about it. Yes. Smart metering is in top 10, I think so. Among the 10, smart metering is one of them.
Thank you. Thank you. I think, yes, please. I think he raised his hand first. Your name and question to whom?
Pravesh Kumar Yadav this side. I am CEO and founder of Pravesh and Kisan Universe Private Limited. I also provide the assistant for the government grant. So I have no question, but just I would like to enhance in the same that today it is a very great chance for the startup or the manufacturing or kind of founders want to set up in the India, especially in UP. If you see that in February, there was 35 lakh crore MOU has been signed. So that is the great time for the all the kind of not for the semiconductor industry, but all kind of. If we talk, this is the government which is talking about the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So STEM. So that's why I want to conclude my. I just I have just a appraisal for the government. That's why.
Thank you.
And so far, really very wonderful session. And thank you so much for the
Panelists, thank you so much.
Hello everyone. Hello everyone. My name is Vaibhav Srivastav, and I have been working in the electronic manufacturing ecosystem. We manage the complete intellectual property of a very big American manufacturer of automated microscopes, like video measurement systems, which are used at different levels in the electronic manufacturing. We have visited TSMC, Samsung, and everybody. So I've moved back from the US in 2009, and we have been watching very closely the development of the semiconductor fab. So, like in 2014, there was news, and we were very closely following that. ST Microelectronics, some Israeli company, and JP Group, they were going to set up a fab in Greater Noida. So we were also very excited that we will also be able to contribute to this, and our sales efforts also got underway. After 4 or 5 years of work, we were able to supply one machine to ISRO. So for a 50 nanometer accuracy machine. But after that, almost everything is stopped. And so I was hearing to the panel today that fab would come at a later stage. And we were, listening, Vedanta is going to set up a fab. So and then there is there is news, the talks have stopped. So if the panel can comment about exactly where are we at seeing a fab, uh, so I have my personal interest there that, okay, that is my bread and butter so far. I'm into variables right now, moving into different one, but that is one of my core concerns.
You want to take it up, Professor Chaudhary? Okay.
So if I understood well, your question is by when can we expect a fab, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So going by the track record of this government, and without being political in any sense, this government has delivered what they promised. Right? They talked about policies, they have framed the policies. They talked about bringing a first company not only signed an agreement, got land allocated, inauguration of that thing has happened. The Prime Minister has many times told, yahi samay hai, sahi samay hai, more true for semiconductor. They have already announced, government already talked about many announcements by the end of December 2024. Definitely you are likely to see a fab being set up for which there are multiple players that are there. So I have no reason to disbelieve any of the statements. The way we have been progressing in terms of generating the interest among all the partnership. So some months back, I think in the end of July, India Semiconductor conference was held in Gandhinagar. And if you looked at the kind of participants that came from all over the world, whether all the top companies, including the ones here and many more, and if you really look at their statements and what they talked there, I have no reason to think that 2024 will not happen. I significantly believe that by 2024, we will definitely have a fab setup. That is my strong belief and confidence based on the actions that I have seen on the ground, not merely the policy announcements. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, with those words, and Raghavan saying 2030 India will be a superpower in semiconductor based on the chip war, obviously, and Professor Chaudhary's wise words on that. Look, I think I want to just drop on the closure on this session. It's been a very exciting session, I must say. I did go off track a little bit, but just to test a little bit. But marvelous to interact, and thank you all for your presence here. I know it's after lunch. So with that, I just request and give a very big thank you to all of you, please.
Thank you to all the speakers. That was a great session. It provided some great insights to us. I would like Mr. Amit Bhargava to just present the mementos to all the speakers.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks. Keep it. Like photo to them, enjoy.